I bloody love the end of the world. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. I don't think I need to talk about the finer details of the plot in order to review this book properly. It's a relatively simple post-apocalyptic story with an attempt at an enduring theme. When you finish the book, I think you'll be thinking about civilization, community, maybe a bit of symbolism, not really the characters and their action in the novel. So spoilers are not really a big deal. The postman, David Brin. Oh, before I get started, there's a gang of workmen next door laying slabs, making noises, using power tools. They only seem to be able to communicate using really loud shouting and singing. I can't wait until they're finished or record in between the noise. So if you hear things in the background, that's what that is. In fact, if I bring this up a little bit, right, and I'm a bit more on the mic, that should overpower what's going on there. I'll just carry on. Next door will probably get his fucking lawnmower out as well. May as well. Everybody join in. The Postman, David Brin, 1985. I promised that I would give David Brin another chance after not really enjoying and then abandoning his Uplift series after only 2 books a few years ago. And The Postman seemed like the safest bet. The End of the World has always been comfort reading for me. I know that sounds a little bit dark and depressing, but as well as the far out there stuff like Philip K. Dick, I'm very drawn to high concept science fiction like First Contact, post-apocalyptic and alien invasion. By high concept I mean very easy to envisage or explain. It's got a very firm foundation. It's a very strong subgenre. Humanity is almost wiped out. Here is the story about the survivors. Where will the author take us? David Brin goes for the middle lane. The setting isn't as barren as something like Earth Abides. The situation isn't as royally have that X factor of I Am Legend. That did surprise me a little bit. I'm no David Brin connoisseur, but I expected more than just another post-apocalyptic story from someone that likes to write about talkings. Maybe that's a little bit harsh. There are a couple of quirky things in the world, but the backbone of the story is quite tame. Man's journey. So the plot, we're in Oregon on the west coast of the United States of America, 17 years after this apocalyptic event. That does seem oddly specific, doesn't it? I'm sure it's mentioned in the book several times, 16 or 17 years. Or I just made it up. Our protagonist is a guy called Gordon. There's quite a few people left in this world. There are pockets of survivors that have clumped together in little towns and villages, little settlements, you know the kind of thing. He travels around performing Shakespeare for food and shelter. As expected, in between these homesteads, these pockets of people, there is danger. It's lawless. It's a bit like the old frontier Wild West, but in reverse. The memory of the old world is still very fresh. It's only been a couple of decades, so most of the people that we meet are actual survivors of this apocalypse, and there is a yearning for a return to the society that we did have, or some sort of security or stability or a structure for the future. This is one of the very few examples where the Postman has more to offer than Earth. I don't think it's anywhere near as accomplished as either of those books, but it does have this really interesting dynamic when we're talking about the surviving population. There's more opportunity for drama and conflict. The overriding theme isn't the total despair of the road or the, well, we'll just have to start from the beginning again of Earth Abides. It's more like the next chapter of our civilization, but we're carrying the baggage of the past. Anyway, this Gordon character finds an old postman's uniform and a mailbag full of letters, and he decides that it would be a really good idea to actually deliver those letters, and he ends up posing as a mailman, a postman. It's kind of a weird but interesting situation. It's not like he is a total con man. He does get food and shelter for delivering the letters, and it's clear that he enjoys the power that this uniform brings. But he is deceiving people, but there's no doubt that he is bringing absolute joy when people receive these letters from loved ones 17 years dead. So it's a really great setup, but I just didn't know where David Brin was going with this story. The first act feels like some sort of biblical fable with metaphorical symbolism, like the postman is representing hope, or he's this beacon of light in a dark world. I thought it was very effective world building, a great short story idea with a really interesting main character. I'll give David Brin a lot of credit for writing a hero who is a liar. He's a trickster, but his heart's in it, and I really love that complication. But then the book changes gear and we leave this elegant, simple story behind, and Brin introduces different elements. Some of them are really interesting, but they feel like they're from a different book, a different series, and I don't think all the different parts came together very well. It wasn't terrible by any means. I really did want to know more about the wider landscape. We just stick with the story of stitching the country back together with hopes and dreams. I'm still not entirely sure what the ultimate message was, because this weird hippie technology gets in the way, and I'm sure there's a philosophical reason to include this female army and weird brainless super soldiers, but it all gets lost in the muddle. I just think David Brin tries to do way too much, and it ramps up as we go through the novel. I'm not saying that an author should hold back or restrict the narrative, but there's always a risk of losing focus, and this book started to lose me after that really tight first act. Is there an awesome post-apocalyptic novel hiding in the postman's sack? Maybe. I can see the comment on power and corruption coming through, and I do love that it has one foot in the past. The problem is, I predicted I had written my own version of the rest of the book when I was only on about page 50. Gordon was going to be the saviour of this world, but he had to do it as a negative force. He had to do it by lying, and then the person himself, Gordon, was going to be stripped of all this responsibility and unmasked and be a sacrifice, and it was going to be the symbols of the old America and the old world that was going to save us, and not an actual person. All of that is definitely in the book somewhere. It's just a pity that it's obscured with all this other weird stuff. And I didn't find the antagonist to be that clear either. Something about a charismatic leader who started this anti-democratic militia before and during the apocalypse. And I think the idea is that they're the true enemy. Was okay, functional, absolutely fine for a book like this. You don't want to get too out there. And the pacing was really good. I will say that. I always wanted to turn the page to find out more. The thing about this subgenre, post-apocalyptic stories, is that they linger in the mind. I finished The Postman about a week ago, and honestly, I only think about that first act. The rest of it gets a little bit too silly, and I don't give it that much credit. I half expected to see more talking dolphins. That would have been cool. I still bloody love The End of the World, and I'm glad I finally crossed this one off the list. And as for David Brin, I'm not against the idea of reading another one of his books. Standalone. I don't want to go into another series. So maybe I'll try another David Brin in about 17 years from now. That doesn't make any sense. A score for The Postman. It started off round about an 8, an 8.5, something like that. As we got deeper, giving it any more than a 6. Did you love The Postman? Is it the best post-apocalyptic story in the world ever? Did you hate The Postman? Do you agree with me? It was alright, but then it went a little bit shit. Or are you somewhere in the middle? It was okay, there's better, there's worse. It's David Brin. I don't know what to say. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. Somewhere else on the screen are some more videos that you can click on and you will truly love. Until next time, peace.
Golden trinkets, mobile phone, expensive shoes, you can get your own.